Welcome back. This is Module 2 of the training series focused on the Section 8 Management Assessment Program, also known as SEMAP, for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. The purpose of this training is to provide an overview of SEMAP and key information to help PHAs effectively manage their Housing Choice Voucher Program for SEMAP success. Each module of this training is self-paced and can be started or stopped at any time. Module 1 provided an overview of the general SEMAP requirements and process. Now we'll provide an overview of each of the SEMAP indicators. There are 14 indicators and one bonus indicator designed to determine how well an HCV program is performing. Among other things, these indicators measure how much of the funding is being used, whether the agency is complying with regulations regarding rent reasonableness, HQS, and reexaminations, whether transactions are timely, whether the rent calculations are accurate, and whether there is documentation to support them. Each indicator is worth a certain number of points. The highest score achievable is 150 points. The following slides will review the details of each indicator. For Indicator 1, HUD wants to ensure that the PHA has written policies for selecting applicants from the waiting list and can demonstrate that at least 98% of families were selected in accordance with the policies. To confirm this, the PHA must review two separate samples of families selected from the waitlist. 1. Applicants who were identified to receive a voucher but were determined to be ineligible or did not respond. And 2. New voucher families that were issued a voucher and leased a unit during the year. For each indicator, this training provides key questions for PHA success that the PHA should review and answer to achieve indicator success. The questions for Indicator 1 are: does the administrative plan define how families will be selected, such as, for example, preferences or ranking? Does the application for assistance capture the necessary information to adhere to administrative plan policy regarding waitlist placement and selection? Do the files contain proof of preference for admissions? For applicants that reached the top of the waitlist but were not selected, does the PHA have supporting documentation? For applicants that were they selected in the proper order? SEMAP Indicator 2 measures whether a PHA has a written policy governing the determination of a reasonable rent to owner in compliance with HUD regulations, and if the PHA has implemented the policy as stated in the administrative plan. This indicator measures whether the PHA has an adequate written method for determining rent reasonableness and completes rent reasonableness determinations when required, at initial leasing, for rent increase requests, if there is a 10% decrease in fair market rents in effect 60 days before the HAP contract anniversary. This is confirmed through a review of administrative plan and standard operating procedures, or SOPs, and a file sample from all assisted families during the fiscal year. Note that files in the sample which did not require rent reasonableness performed are considered in compliance. The questions for success on Indicator 2 are: does the administrative plan have a methodology for comparing units? Does the documentation on file support the methodology? Are rent reasonableness determinations being performed when required? Do the rents approved support the methodology? Indicator number 3 looks at the accuracy of transactions in determining adjusted income. HUD wants to make sure that the PHA has correctly verified, documented, and calculated the components of adjusted income, assets, deductions, and allowances, and use the correct utility allowance. This indicator is confirmed by reviewing a file sample of assisted families. The questions for success on Indicator 3 are: does the administrative plan contain verification procedures? Was the household income supported by appropriate verification? EIV reports, tenant-provided documentation, third-party verification, or participant certification with explanation why other methods not used? Was the adjusted income correctly calculated? Was the correct payment standard used? Was the correct utility allowance used based on request for tenancy approval, or RFTA, lease and HAP contract? Do they all match? Indicator number 4 focuses on whether the PHA maintains current utility allowance standards. HUD wants to ensure that the PHA is conducting a review of utility rates annually and a review of utility allowances if rates change by more than 10% since the last revision. This indicator is confirmed through a review of the utility allowance schedule. The questions for success on Indicator 4 are: does the PHA review the utility allowance schedule annually? Does the PHA adjust the schedule when there is a change of 10% or more in the rate since the last time it was reviewed? Indicator number 5 determines whether the PHA is conducting HQS Quality Control or QC inspections. HUD wants to see that a PHA supervisor or other qualified individual has re-inspected an adequate sample of units drawn within 3 months of original inspection during the PHA's fiscal year. This is confirmed through file reviews of a sample from all units under HAP contract during the fiscal year. The questions for success on Indicator 5 are: does the methodology for selecting units ensure that the sample was selected properly? Was there a cross-section of neighborhoods selected from reinspection? Was there a cross-section of HQS inspectors selected from reinspection? Is there a copy of the initial and the QC inspection in the file? Indicator number 6 focuses on HQS enforcement. For this indicator, HUD is looking to see that for at least 98% of the sample, all cited life-threatening deficiencies were corrected within 24 hours and non-life-threatening deficiencies within 30 days, or that the PHA abated HAP payments beginning no later than the first of the month following the specified correction period. This indicator is confirmed in 2 places: our reviews of a sample from all failed inspections during the fiscal year, and the HAP register to determine if units were properly abated. The questions for success on Indicator 6 include: does the administrative plan contain HQS enforcement policies and procedures? For each unit that failed inspection, was there a written notification to owner and tenant identifying action required? Was there verification that supports the HQS deficiencies were corrected in a timely manner? If deficiencies were not corrected, was rent abated and/or HAP contract terminated? Is this reflected in the HAP register? If tenant cost deficiencies were not corrected in a timely manner, was the assistance terminated or other action taken per family obligations? Indicator number 7 ensures that the PHA is making an effort to expand housing opportunities. This indicator only applies to PHAs with jurisdiction in a metropolitan FMR area. HUD wants to ensure that the PHA has a written policy for and documentation that shows it has taken action to encourage participation of owners of units outside areas of poverty or minority concentration. This is confirmed through a review of the administrative plan and participant briefing packet. The questions for success on Indicator 7 include: can the PHA document that it implements policy to encourage participation of owners that have units outside of areas of poverty or minority concentration? Does the PHA have maps delineating areas outside of poverty or minority concentration? Does the PHA use prepared information on units, services, job opportunities, schools, transportation in non-impacted areas? Does the PHA include information about non-poverty areas in its briefing packet? Does the PHA include information on portability in its briefing packet? Is there an analysis of voucher holder success in finding units in non-impacted areas? Has the PHA analyzed barriers to moving to the areas and considered the appropriateness of seeking exception payment standards? Indicator 8 ensures that the PHA uses correct payment standards. HUD is looking to ensure that PHA payment standards are no more than 110% and no less than 90% of the current fair market rent, unless approved by HUD. This is confirmed through a review of administrative plan and the most recent payment standard schedule. The questions for success on Indicator 8 include: does the PHA review its payment standard schedule to make sure it aligns with the published FMRs? Are the payment standards within 90 to 110% of FMRs? Did the PHA use the correct current HUD-published FMR to calculate the payment standard? Indicator number 9 measures whether annual reexaminations are timely. The standard for annual reexaminations is that a 50058 must be completed in the system of record for each active household within 365 days of the effective date of the prior annual reexamination. If under 5% of all reexaminations are no more than 2 months overdue, the PHA receives 10 points. If 5 to 10% of all reexaminations are no more than 2 months overdue, the PHA receives 5 points. This is confirmed through PIC, which is why a PHA's PIC reporting rate is so important. HUD does not recognize a transaction if it is not in PIC. The reporting rate is calculated as 50058 received divided by 50058 required, expressed as a percentage. HUD requires a PHA's reporting rate to be 94.5% or higher to be awarded points for indicators that are measured through PIC. The questions for success on Indicator 9 include: does the PHA have a process in place to ensure that re-exams are completed within 12 months of the prior re-exam? Is the PHA tracking the completion of re-exams as well as delinquent re-exams? Does the PHA have a procedure to correct PIC errors to ensure that transactions are uploading? Does the PHA monitor this PIC indicator regularly? Does the PHA monitor reporting rates by comparing PIC's delinquency report and ad hoc reports with VMS for the same time frame? Indicator number 10 measures correct tenant rent calculations. This indicator is also measured through PIC. It looks for the percent of correct calculations of tenant rent and family's portion of rent to owner as reflected in the PHA's 50058 transactions. This is related to indicator number 3 because if the adjusted income is not calculated correctly, the tenant's rent portion amount is likely to be incorrect too. This information is confirmed through a PIC report that will show the percentage of correct transactions. The questions for success on Indicator 10 include: what does the PHA do to ensure accurate rent calculations? Was the adjusted income correctly calculated? Was the correct payment standard used? Was the correct utility allowance used? Indicator number 11 looks at pre-contract HQS inspections. In this indicator, HUD is looking to see that 98% of units leased in the fiscal year will have had a past HQS inspection before the beginning date of the assisted lease and HAP contract. This information is confirmed through a PIC report showing date of past inspection and date of move-in, transaction type 1 for new admissions or 7 for moves. The questions for success on Indicator 11 include: how does the PHA track move-ins to make sure there is a past inspection prior to HAP execution and lease-up? Indicator number 12 measures annual HQS inspections. For this indicator, HUD is looking for 95% of leased units to be inspected once every 365 days. This is confirmed through a PIC report of leased units and last HQS annual inspection date. The questions for success on Indicator 12 include: does the PHA have a process to ensure that leased units are inspected annually? Is the PHA uploading inspection results to PIC on a timely basis? Indicator number 13 is the leased utilization indicator. This indicator allows HUD to see whether the PHA is using its allocation of HCV vouchers. It measures the number of units leased against the number of vouchers allocated, or the PHA's budget authority. If the allocation is 98% or more, either in units or funds expended, the PHA gets the full 20 points. This indicator is confirmed through the use of VMS data reflecting the number of units leased and FMC data reflecting budget expended. The questions for success on Indicator 13 include: is the PHA using the 2-year tool regularly to determine utilization rates? Does the PHA have procedures to conduct an efficient lease-up process when the PHA is underleased? Does the PHA restate VMS so that units leased are accurately represented in VMS? Indicator number 14 involves FSS Enrollment and FSS Escrow. This indicator applies to PHAs with mandatory FSS programs. It has two components. One measures whether the PHA has the required number of families in the program, and the other measures the percentage of FSS participants with escrows. 80% of required slots or more of FSS participants, 30% with escrow equals 10 points. 60 to 79% of required slots filled with 30% escrow equals 8 points. 60 to 79% of required slots filled and less than 30% escrow equals 3 points. This indicator is confirmed through the PIC report indicating enrollees and escrow amounts. The questions for success on indicator 14 include, does the PHA have a strong recruitment program to engage potential enrollees? Does the PHA have strong marketing materials that effectively explain the program and its benefits? Does the PHA engage current enrollees, celebrate successes, and maintain close contact in order to encourage continued participation? Does the PHA have strong partners and a community presence that provides FSS enrollees with the support they need to obtain education and better employment so that they can have escrow accounts? Indicator 15 is the Deconcentration Bonus. This is an optional indicator and only applies to PHAs with jurisdiction in a metropolitan FMR area. The PHA must meet one of three criteria to qualify for the points. 1. Half or more of all HCV families with children assisted by the PHA in its principal operating area resided in a low poverty census tract at the end of the last PHA fiscal year. 2. The percent of HCV mover families with children who moved to low poverty census tracts in the PHA's operating area during the last PHA fiscal year is at least 2 percentage points higher than the percent of all HCV families with children who resided in low poverty census tracts at the end of the last PHA fiscal year. And 3, same as 2, but during the last 2 PHA fiscal years. To confirm for this indicator, the PHA must respond to questions using data from its system of record about participant moves and census tracts. The questions for success on indicator 15 include, does the PHA have information in its voucher briefing packet about low poverty areas, including information about schools, transportation, large employers in the area, the cost of living, etc.? Does the PHA have an outreach program to attract landlords in low poverty areas? Is the PHA in a metropolitan FMR area? This ends Module 2.